Okay, so you know how sometimes you just see something happen and you think, oh, wow, that's messed up. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that happened to me recently with this computer science student I know. Super bright, really knows her stuff. But in her classes, total nightmare with group projects.
No, no. What happened?
Well, it was like the guys in her classes just dismissed her,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
wouldn't even look at her code
Oh,
properly.
come on.
Yeah, it was rough. And I mean, she's fantastic, but it was like they already made up their minds. Woman in CS must not be good.
Ugh, that is so frustrating and so common, unfortunately.
It is, and it really got me thinking about these invisible hurdles that people face. Even when they have the talent, the skills, they still get tripped up. It's just not right.
You're so right. And it's a perfect example of what we're diving into today, this idea of stereotype threat.
Stereotype threat, yeah.
It was actually back in the mid-90s when two researchers, Claude Steele and Joshua Aronson, really put this on the map.
Oh, yeah. They did a lot of groundbreaking work, didn't they?
They did, and they defined stereotype threat as this predicament, this vulnerability you feel.
Hmm.
Like you might confirm a negative stereotype about your group. And it happens especially in areas you really care about where you want to do well.
And the thing is, this isn't just some niche academic concept.
Right.
This comes up everywhere. Like I've seen it at the big conferences. I mean, the American Educational Research Association, the American Psychological Society.
Yeah, yeah.
Even mainstream media, Newsweek, they've all covered it. It feels like everyone's recognizing how important this is.
And it is. You see, there's this whole body of research now, and it shows very clearly how stereotype threat can hurt performance.
Yeah, makes
Yeah.
total sense, right? But here's the thing that really fascinates me.
Yeah.
We can see the effect, the drop in performance, but the how, the why it happens, that's still a mystery.
It's a good mystery.
It is. And one researcher, Osborne, put it perfectly. He called it an effect without a clearly explicated mechanism.
Oh, I like that.
So today, we're going deep, like deep, deep.
Deep dive.
Deep dive. And our goal, to understand just how this feeling, this being under stereotype threat, can actually sabotage you.
I'm ready.
Good. Now, there's tons of research out there, but this article by Smith from 2004, it gives us a really useful roadmap.
Oh, yeah, Smith's article. Really helpful.
So Smith says, first, we got to look back. Look at everything researchers have already tried to explain.
Well, all the different theories.
Exactly. Do people try less hard? Do they get super anxious? Do they lose confidence? Like, what's the culprit, right? And how did they even measure all that? And here's the kicker. When you look at all that research, no clear winner, no single strong explanation that just pops out.
That's so interesting.
It is, right? Which brings us to the second thing Smith points out.
Okay, the second thing.
And this is where it gets really juicy. So instead of looking for one single cause, Smith says, hey, what if it's more complicated? What if it's a bunch of things working together?
Multifaceted, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And then they bring in this whole other area of research, achievement goal theory.
Interesting.
It is, and it's all about understanding how different goals affect the way we approach things.
I'm intrigued.
This is where Smith introduces the drumroll,
Okay.
the stereotyped task engagement process model.
Catchy.
It is. Step model, for sure.
Nothing like it.
And this model basically says, when you're under stereotype threat, it's not just one thing going wrong, it's a whole process. And achievement goal theory helps us understand that process.
I see.
Now, before we go any further, let's just make sure we're all on the same page.
Good idea.
What is stereotype threat, really? We threw out the definition, but let's break it down.
Yeah, let's unpack it a bit.
So it's that pressure, that feeling like you're walking on eggshells because of a negative stereotype. And it pops up in situations where you really want to do well.
Right.
But here's the thing. It's not like a personality trait.
No, definitely not.
It's not like some people are just always under stereotype threat.
Yeah.
It's situational. It's in the air.
In the context. Yeah.
That's it. It pops up when a stereotype is relevant and you're in a situation where you're being evaluated.
Oh, and it doesn't even mean you believe the stereotype yourself.
That's the thing, right?
It's more about being aware of it and not wanting to confirm it,
Yeah.
especially if you really care about doing well in that area.
It's almost worse if you don't believe it.
How so?
Because then you're fighting even harder against it. It's like, I'm going to prove them wrong. But that pressure, it can backfire.
Makes sense.
And it hits hardest the people who are most invested.
And the ones who are really identified with that area, yeah.
Exactly. Like if you're a woman in STEM and you're passionate about science, that stereotype about women not being good at math, it can really mess with you, even if you know it's not true.
It's like your expectations of succeeding or failing get all tangled up with how much you care about it,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
becomes super emotionally charged.
It is. It's not just a cold, calculated thing. It gets under your skin.
Now, I know some people might be thinking, wait, isn't this just the self-fulfilling prophecy?
That's a good point. It's easy to mix them up.
It is, but there's a key difference.
Okay, explain it to us.
So, in a self-fulfilling prophecy, the negative expectation, the stereotype, it lives in someone else. Like, imagine a teacher who thinks, oh, boys are just naturally better at math than girls.
Oh, I've heard that one.
Right. And because they believe that, they might treat the boys and girls differently.
Like give them different opportunities or something.
Exactly. Like, maybe they don't challenge the girls as much.
Mhm.
And then what happens? The girls don't do as well because they haven't been pushed.
And it looks like the teacher was right all along.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle. But the key is, the power is with the person holding the stereotype. They're the ones influencing the other person's behavior.
So it's about how the perceiver acts, not the person being stereotyped.
That's the difference. Stereotype threat is about the target. The research shows that even if no one's saying anything negative, just knowing about the stereotype, being aware of it, can make you perform worse.
It's like the stereotype itself becomes a hurdle.
It's internalized
Mhm.
in a way. And this has been studied in so many different areas. It's not just about academics.
Oh yeah, give us some examples.
We're talking race, socioeconomic status, age, gender. We're talking about performance in sports, verbal tasks, memory tests, math exams, you name it.
Oh.
And all ages, too. From little kids in elementary school all the way up to college students. There's this great review by Wheeler and Petty.
Wheeler and Petty.
And they really highlight just how widespread this is. It affects everybody.
It seems like the more important something is to you, the harder it hits.
Absolutely. If you don't care about something, a stereotype about it won't bother you as much.
Makes sense.
But if it's something you're passionate about, something central to your identity, then the threat is much bigger. You're more vulnerable.
So how do researchers actually study this?
Good question. The classic approach is to have people take a test or do some kind of task.
Right.
But before they do, some of them get reminded of a relevant stereotype.
Oh, sneaky.
It is a bit sneaky. And then they compare the performance of those who got the reminder to those who didn't.
And I bet there are all sorts of ways to make people aware of the stereotype.
Oh, absolutely. Some are super subtle, like Crozet and Claire back in '98. They just had people fill out a demographic form before the test.
Seriously, just a form.
That's all it took. They asked about race, SES, and boom, it was enough to trigger the threat for those who belong to a stereotype group.
Wow. What about more obvious ways?
Oh, there are plenty. Steele and Aronson, in their early work, they'd tell people the test was diagnostic of ability.
Oh, that would make me nervous.
Right. It puts so much pressure on you, like your performance is going to prove something about your entire group.
Yikes.
Or Davies and colleagues, they had people watch TV commercials before a test.
Commercials. Really?
Yeah. And the commercials played up gender stereotypes. And guess what? The women who watched those commercials did worse on the test afterwards.
That's wild. So just the stuff around us, the context, it can prime us for these stereotypes.
It does. It's insidious. And sometimes they're even more direct. Aronson's team actually had people read articles claiming another group was superior in the exact area they were about to be tested on.
Oh, come on. That's plain dirty.
I know, right? And they even reminded them verbally, just to hammer it home.
Brutal. But it shows how powerful this effect can be.
It does. And you mentioned some examples earlier.
Oh, yeah, about gender and math.
Right. So Inslicht and Benziev, they had women work on math problems, and just being in a room with way more men was enough to trigger stereotype threat and hurt their performance.
It's like the environment itself is saying you don't belong here.
It is, and it's scary how easily it happens.
What about the study with the video about test bias?
Oh, Blaskovich and colleagues, that one's fascinating. They had black participants watch this video, but there were two versions. One presented by a white professor, one by a black professor.
Interesting.
And the way they talked about the test, their own race, it all influenced how threatened the participants felt.
So even who's giving the information matters.
It does. It adds another layer to it all. And here's another thing that's really important.
Yeah.
This isn't just about students who are struggling.
Oh,
Stereotype threat can hit even the top performers.
really?
Yeah, Spencer, Steele, and Quinn, their work showed this beautifully. They had these women, amazing at math, but when they were told the math test had historically shown gender differences,
Oh, no.
they choked. their performance tanked.
I'm surprised. You'd think if you're already good at something, you'd be immune to that.
You'd think so, right? But this study showed it's not about ability. It's about the pressure of the stereotype.
So even if you know you're good, that little voice in the back of your head, it can still sabotage you.
It can. And what was really telling was their follow-up study. They told another group of high-achieving women that this math test had no gender differences.
Interesting.
And proof the performance gap vanished. Men and women performed equally well.
So it really was the stereotype holding them back, not their actual abilities.
Exactly. And, there are some things we can do to combat this.
Oh, good. Like what?
Like making the stereotype irrelevant, like that follow-up study did.
Right.
Aronson and others have looked at changing people's beliefs about intelligence. Like instead of seeing it as fixed, seeing it as something you can develop.
I like that.
There's also research on the power of role models. Seeing people like you who have succeeded despite the stereotypes. McIntyre and his team have done some great work on that.
Inspiring, yeah.
Keller and Dauenheimer, they found that even just reducing feelings of discouragement can help. Like if you can keep people from getting too down on themselves, they perform better even under threat.
That makes sense. So we know the effect is real. We have some ideas about how to combat it.
Right. But the big question remains, why? Why does this happen? What's actually going on in people's minds or in their behavior that makes them stumble?
That's the million-dollar question. And that's where Smith's article really digs in.
Okay, so what are the suspects?
Well, they're categorized in two main groups. Behavioral mechanisms, the things people do, and phenomenological mechanisms, what they experience internally.
So actions versus feelings. Got it.
Perfect. Let's start with the actions, the behaviors.
Okay, lead the way.
So one of the first things I looked at was effort.
Effort, okay.
And there were two competing ideas here. One was that under stereotype threat, people just kind of give up.
Like they get discouraged and think, why bother?
Exactly. Learned helplessness kicks in. The other idea was the opposite, that they actually try too hard.
Interesting.
Like they're so worried about messing up that they overthink everything and it backfires.
So which one was it? Well, the research is a little muddy here. A lot of studies looked at different measures of effort, like how long people spent on each question, how many questions they attempted.
Okay, yeah.
And most of the time, no big differences between those under threat and those who weren't.
No.
Steele and Aronson did find one little hint. People under threat spend a bit longer on the first few questions of a verbal test.
Oh, really?
But they didn't actually test whether this extra time caused the overall performance difference.
So it's not clear if it's actually a factor or just a coincidence.
Exactly. And there's this idea from James and Greenberg that maybe effort is a suppressor variable.
A suppressor variable? What's that?
It basically means it hides a relationship that's actually there.
Okay, follow me.
So maybe under stereotype threat, people are putting in more effort, but it's not translating to better performance. And it might even be masking some other positive effect. It is tricky, and we need more research to figure it out. But the main takeaway is simple effort, either too little or too much, doesn't seem to be the main driver here.
Okay, so effort is out. What about self-handicapping?
Yes. This is where people create excuses for themselves before they even start.
Right, like, I didn't sleep well, or I'm not feeling well.
Exactly. They give themselves an out, so if they fail, it's not their fault.
Clever.
It is clever, but is it what's happening under stereotype threat? Well, Steele and Aronson found a little something in their early work. Black participants under threat did report less sleep and less focus. But here's the catch. They didn't measure actual performance in that part of the study.
So we don't know if it actually affected their scores.
Exactly. And then other studies tried to replicate this, mostly asking people to self-report things like sleep, focus, preparedness.
Okay.
And mostly nothing. No clear evidence that these self-reported handicaps explain the stereotype threat effect. There was one exception, though. Keller found that high school girls under threat reported more stress.
Interesting.
And that stress did seem to be linked to their poorer math performance.
Yeah.
But overall, the evidence for this claimed self-handicapping, it's weak.
What about actual behavioral self-handicapping, like doing things that sabotage your chances?
Now, that's an area we need to explore more. Stone's research found that people under threat were less likely to practice a golf task. But again, they didn't always measure actual golf performance in those studies.
Right.
And Quinn and Spencer found that women under stereotype threat had a harder time coming up with strategies for math problems.
Which could affect their performance, yeah.
It could, but they didn't directly test if it actually did. So we need more research.
Okay, so we've ruled out effort. We're not sure about self-handicapping.
Right.
Let's move on to the feelings. What's happening inside people's heads when they're under stereotype threat?
Good transition. Let's go internal. The first thing researchers thought of was anxiety.
Anxiety, yeah. Makes sense. If you're worried about confirming a negative stereotype, that's got to make you anxious.
Seems logical, right? But the early research, not so clear-cut. Studies using measures of cognitive interference.
Like those distracting thoughts that pop up when you're stressed.
That's it. They didn't find much. And even when they used standard anxiety questionnaires, like the SDI,
Yes, yeah.
the results were all over the place. Didn't show a strong link to stereotype threat.
So even though it feels like anxiety should be a factor, it wasn't showing up in the data.
There were a few exceptions, though. Spencer and his team found a small effect on one anxiety measure in one study.
Okay.
And Osborne found that self-reported anxiety partially explained the relationship between race and performance in some cases, and also between gender and performance.
Okay. Interesting.
But those effects were small. And other studies, using different anxiety measures,
Yeah.
also mixed results. And Stone, in his golf studies, when he looked at anxiety specific to the situation, nothing.
So anxiety might be playing a role, but it's not the whole story.
That's the best way to put it. We got breadcrumbs, but not the whole loaf.
All right, so we've got anxiety about the task itself. What about anxiety about being judged?
Evaluation apprehension. That's a good one. The idea is that under stereotype threat, you're super aware of being watched, evaluated, and that self-consciousness makes you mess up.
Interesting.
So did they find support for this?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Well, not really. Steele and Aronson found that simply asking people about their race didn't make them feel more bothered. And Spencer and O'Brien and Crandall, they both used questionnaires about evaluation apprehension. Nothing there either. Aronson's team did find one tiny thing. Math-identified white males under threat did report wondering more about the experimenter's judgment.
Okay, so they were a bit more self-conscious.
They were, but even that didn't explain their performance. So, evaluation apprehension, not a consistent culprit.
All right, we've got anxiety about the task, anxiety about being judged. What about confidence? Like how people feel about their own abilities in that moment.
That's a big one. Performance confidence. And researchers have thrown everything at this, trying to measure it in all sorts of ways.
Oh, like what?
Like general feelings of academic competence, implicit self-doubt measured through word puzzles.
Word puzzles, really?
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
And how people estimate their performance before and after a task, their expected success, even their perceived power in the situation.
So many different angles.
So many angles. And the results, all over the map.
So frustrating.
It is. Some studies using those implicit measures of self-doubt and some looking at pre-task predictions, they showed a little something.
Okay.
And even hinted that it might explain some of the effects on practice. But when they look at overall confidence levels, post-task ratings, expectations of success in other situations, feelings of self-efficacy, nothing consistent. Task difficulty muddied the waters too, but it wasn't the main cause itself.
So feeling less confident, not the clear answer either.
It's a tough one. Might be some subtle stuff there, but unconscious doubts or initial expectations. More research needed.
Always more research needed. Now, what about, does being under stereotype threat actually make people believe the stereotype?
Stereotype endorsement. Good question. Lyons and his team tackled this one. They looked at whether men, when exposed to a stereotype about men being bad at emotions.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one.
Right. So they looked at whether men, when exposed to this stereotype, actually started believing it. And if that belief then affected their performance on an emotional test.
Makes sense.
But guess what? No dice. No evidence that they actually endorsed the stereotype.
So at least they're not buying into the negativity. That's something.
It is. Now, here's another thought. What if people under stereotype threat blame the test itself?
Oh, like they think it's biased.
Exactly. Steele himself suggested this, like maybe it's a coping mechanism. Instead of blaming yourself, you blame the test.
It's not me, it's the test.
Exactly. And Steele and Aronson did find that black participants under threat rated an upcoming exam as more unfair. Stone found similar stuff too. But when they actually measured performance alongside these perceptions of bias, like Stone did in his golf studies, the bias didn't explain the performance differences. And even liking the test didn't make a difference.
So blaming the test, not the smoking gun.
Nope. Okay, we've covered effort, self-handicapping, anxiety, evaluation apprehension, confidence, stereotype endorsement, and perceptions of the test. What else is left in the realm of feelings?
Let me think. Oh, what about just their overall sense of self?
Feelings about the self. That covers a lot of ground. Researchers have looked at general self-esteem, how it fluctuates in the moment, even depression in older adults facing age stereotypes.
Wow.
But across all those studies, no consistent explanation.
So how you feel about yourself overall doesn't seem to directly cause the drop in performance.
Right. Though how much you value your social group or the domain itself, that can influence how strongly the threat affects you. But it's not the cause of the performance difference itself.
Okay, so we've gone through a whole laundry list of potential culprits. And the verdict.
The verdict is inconclusive.
Ugh, I was hoping for a more satisfying answer.
I know it's frustrating. As Smith's article points out, we haven't found that one perfect, always reliable explanation. There's a bit of support for anxiety and confidence playing a partial role sometimes,
Okay.
but nothing definitive. And so many other things haven't been fully tested or the findings haven't been replicated consistently. So the mystery remains. How does stereotype threat actually do its damage?
And I'm starting to think that maybe relying so much on asking people how they feel, maybe that's part of the problem.
Oh, good point. You know, as researchers have been saying for ages, we're not always aware of what's driving our thoughts and actions.
Right. Our conscious minds aren't always in control.
Exactly. And in stereotype threat research, those studies that have used less direct measures, like reaction times, tests of cognitive interference, word completion tasks,
Okay, yeah.
the results are mixed. And some of those measures haven't even been properly tested as mediators due to methodological limitations.
Ah, right. Makes it hard to draw conclusions.
It does. And it could be that there are multiple things at play here, maybe even some unconscious hidden processes that we're not capturing with our current methods.
Now, you mentioned a study that looked at blood pressure. That seems different, looking at the body's physical response.
That one's super interesting. Blaskovich and colleagues, they found that Black participants under stereotype threat, their blood pressure went up.
Makes sense. Stress and all that.
Right. Their thinking was that this blood pressure response, it could be an indicator of all sorts of things. Increased effort, anxiety, high expectations, apprehension.
A whole cocktail of stress.
Exactly. And they did find that stereotype threat increased blood pressure.
Okay.
But they didn't actually test whether that blood pressure increase caused the poor performance.
Ah, okay.
But it does suggest that there's a physiological component here. Something's happening in the body. Definitely an area for future research.
No, I'm starting to think maybe it's not one thing, but a whole bunch of things working together. And maybe it even differs depending on the stereotype, the group being targeted.
That's another great point. There might not be a one-size-fits-all answer. Different stereotypes, different groups, maybe they experience this differently. Different processes might be more important in each case.
Like, the way stereotype threat affects women in math might be different from how it affects Black students on standardized tests.
Exactly. And some researchers have even suggested that there might be feedback loops, like your behavior affects how you feel, which then affects your behavior again, and so on.
Oh, that sounds complicated.
It is complicated. Makes it even harder to isolate a single cause. And if the process from stereotype threat to poor performance involves a lot of steps, each with its own effect size, well, our statistical methods might not be powerful enough to detect it if we're just looking at one mediator at a time.
So it's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces.
It is a bit, and that's where Smith's article and the STEP model come in. They offer a way to look at this more holistically.
Okay, tell us more about this STEP model.
So the stereotyped task engagement process model, it says we need to consider multiple factors. And it pulls in this whole other area of research, achievement goal theory.
Okay, achievement goal theory. Remind me what that's all about.
So both stereotype threat and achievement goal research, they're both about competence and performance. How do we approach situations where we want to do well?
Makes sense.
Achievement goal theory basically says that the way we approach a task depends on the kind of goal we have.
Like, are we focused on learning and getting better, or are we trying to prove how smart we are?
That's the gist of it. And it's not just a matter of choosing one or the other. It can be more nuanced than that.
Oh, okay. Explain.
So there's been a lot of research on how different goals affect performance.
Okay.
And regardless of your actual ability, how you experience and perform a task changes depending on your goal. Are you aiming to master the material, or are you focused on showing off your competence to others?
I can see how those would lead to different approaches.
And Smith argues that this might be what we've been missing in stereotype threat research.
Interesting.
Like, if you're under stereotype threat, You feel this pressure to prove you're good enough. And according to achievement goal theory, that can make you overly focused on how you compare to others.
Like, am I doing better than the other people in my group?
Exactly. And that can make you lose interest in the task itself. And
Oh.
ultimately, you might perform worse, especially on difficult tasks.
So it's not just about doing well, it's about doing better than others.
And it can backfire spectacularly. Now, there's another layer to this.
Okay, hit me with it.
Achievement goals aren't just about wanting to do well.
Oh,
There are different types of performance goals.
okay, break it down.
So initially, it was seen as a simple dichotomy,
Huh.
task focus versus ego focus.
Like, am I focused on the task itself or on how I look to others?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's more complex than that. Now, we distinguish between performance approach goals.
Performance approach. Okay.
This is where you want to demonstrate competence. You want to show everyone you're capable.
Okay.
And then there are performance avoidance goals.
Performance avoidance.
This is where your main concern is to avoid looking incompetent.
So one is about proving you're good. The other is about avoiding looking bad.
That's the difference. And the STEP model says that stereotype threat might specifically trigger these performance avoidance goals.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
If you're worried about confirming a negative stereotype, you're going to be hyper-focused on not messing up.
right. It's all about damage control.
Instead of being in the moment enjoying the task, you're just trying to avoid disaster.
And that shift in mindset, it can really derail you. Now, simply adopting a performance avoidance goal, that might not be the whole story,
Okay.
but it does set a lot of other things in motion. It changes how you regulate yourself, how you approach the task.
And the good thing is, we already know a lot about these performance avoidance goals.
Exactly. There's a ton of research on their consequences.
So how does this STEP model actually work? Like, what are the steps involved?
All right, let's walk through it. First, you encountered negative stereotype information.
Okay, someone mentions a stereotype about my group.
Right. And it's in a situation where that stereotype is relevant. So you feel threatened.
Like, I'm about to take a math test, and someone reminds me of the stereotype about women and math.
Perfect example. And according to the STEP model, this can lead you to adopt a performance avoidance goal.
Okay, I'm now hyper-focused on not confirming that stereotype.
Exactly. Now, this doesn't always happen. It depends on the person.
Right, some people might be more resistant.